Welcome to the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast.
Hi, I'm David Manti, and welcome to a new episode of the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast. With me today is Nancy Weber, Cannabis Sales Manager at Invinia. Thank you very much for joining me today, Nancy.
Hey, nice to be here. Thank you.
I really appreciate you coming into the office, into the studio. It's really cool.
Yeah, well, our facility is only an hour away. I thought I'd come on up and see you in person.
Yeah, just down the road.
Yeah.
All right. Well, before we get started, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You can also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach me at david@cannabisequipmentnews.com with email the podcast in the subject line. You can also subscribe to our daily newsletter. Make sure you get it delivered to your inbox first. Well, Nancy, I always like to start with a little bit of background. So, how was it that you found yourself in the cannabis packaging industry?
Well, I started with a company called Olson Packaging based out of Massachusetts, and they manufacture packaging equipment for the food industry. And back in 2015, I was researching what companies can I cold call.
Yeah.
And cannabis popped up as the biggest industry. We then started pushing our name out there, getting our equipment out there, talking to the cannabis industry in the West Coast primarily. That's where it started. And we did invent a high-accuracy multi-head weighing scale for the cannabis industry.
What year was that?
This was 2015 and 2016, so almost 10 years ago.
Okay.
I think 2015 we sold our first system, and we sold it out to a company in Colorado. We realized that the equipment for the food industry is a little bit different than the equipment needed for packaging cannabis flower.
Oh, yeah. Like, what were some of those early growing pains as you realized, like, hey, this isn't just going to be plug and play?
Yeah, that was the growing pain. One of them was our customers, we have a high accuracy on our scale, but you need even higher accuracy for cannabis flower. You don't want to lose any product. You don't want to be overweight. You don't want to be underweight.
Yeah, compliance regulations are bananas.
Yes, and this was starting out in Colorado. This is where it all began. So we went out to the facility to find out why are they not getting the accuracies we had assumed they were going to get. We took the system back to the drawing board, and we updated the equipment so that the accuracies were tighter. So we built plexiglass around the system to keep the air off of the trichomes, keep the air off of the machinery, because it's the load cells that we call it in the equipment are very, very
they're so sensitive.
Yeah,
like just like a whisper of a breath will set that thing off.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we realized quickly that we had to make some changes to that, which we did. We shipped it back to them. They ordered a whole nother system, so they were happy. And along the way, we've made quite a few changes.
Okay. Were you surprised that, as you were on this endeavor to find like potential new clients, all of a sudden you kind of stumbled into cannabis?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was a stumble.
Okay.
It was a stumble. Like I said, we primarily manufactured equipment for the food industry, and I had called all the popcorn companies I could call.
Yeah.
And I researched on the computer. I literally just typed in what is the biggest industry right now that I could make phone calls to, and cannabis industry popped up for the West Coast. I said, can we do this? And it's been a really, really interesting and fun journey to work in this industry.
Yeah.
I love it.
So what, back then, what was different between your average food client versus your average cannabis client in terms of sophistication when it came to using the equipment?
Back then?
Yeah.
The cannabis industry really they pushed back as far as wanting equipment. We have all these laborers we're paying. We have 15 great employees that we're paying. We want them to hand pack everything. Automation is not something that we feel would be best for us at this point. And we knew that it would be best for them at some point coming up. And when we did sell the equipment to them and they were trying to run the equipment, it's so much different than anything they've ever seen.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So the food industry customers knew what are these multi-head weighing systems, what are bagging systems. We really had to train and educate the cannabis industry what this equipment can do for them.
So from that first client in Colorado through today, what have you seen in terms of an evolution when it comes to that sort of sophistication and adoption when it comes to automation?
You're right. So now there is a lot of sophistication. These companies are highly educated. They hire many employees that have come from, a lot of them from the food industry. They know what they're doing. They're educated on equipment. They're educated on their packaging. They're educated on what they need to do to keep their product out there, keep their brand out there, keep up with demand.
So tell me about this multi-head wear. How does it work? How does it stand apart from other products in the industry, and how has it evolved over the years?
Good question. The multi-head weigher is what we use primarily for the cannabis flower, right? And it's a high accuracy system that's going to take the in-feed of your flower and weigh it out to your 1 gram, 3.5 gram, whatever you're programming it to. It automatically finds the combination in this multi-head weigher of that weight.
Yeah.
So you program it for your 3.5 gram fill weights.
Yeah.
It's going to fill 3.5 grams.
Yeah.
So, and like I said, it has to be very accurate for the medical product, for the rec product, for any product, but very highly accurate for cannabis.
And it's fill in jars, bags, pouches.
Yeah, so we will fill into the standard white jars that you see all the time, bottles, glass jars, pouches. We started out filling into the pillow bag, so like a potato chip bag.
Oh, yeah.
We started out that way.
Okay.
And because most customers would hang it on a wall, on a peg, companies, and start out that way. Once they got into realizing that, geez, this pouch may cost a little bit more, but it looks great.
Yeah.
Or the jar may cost a little bit more, but it looks great. So we can fill into pretty much any container, as long as the product is going to fit in there correctly.
Yeah. Well, and people want to see it,
And they want to see it.
Yeah, they want to see what they're buying. I mean, it's unfortunate that in some states, you can't buy it deli style, right? You can't see it, you can't smell it. It's just feel confident about it. Looks good.
Yeah, exactly.
When with the multi-head wear, how has the design evolved over time?
So we put in a secondary check weigher onto the multi-head weigher, which we don't typically do in what we typically didn't do in the food industry. So what that means is it's going to find that combination of weight, right? It's going to drop it down and it is close to 5 grams, 3.5, 1 gram, whatever you may be filling. But if a bud happens to fall in that is a little bit overweight, because it's very difficult to have the same weight of a bud, it's going to reject it. So we have that reject before it falls into your container.
Okay.
That's what we do now. So you don't then have to check your weights to make sure they're correct. It's correct going into the container.
How does it check that weight?
It's a
beforehand. Oh,
beforehand. Yeah. So it's a weighment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's another scale.
Oh, gotcha. So it's weighed before it's dropped into the jar and then weighed again.
Yeah. So it's first weighed, comes down to a holding pattern. Here it is. It looks like it's 3.5. If it is, it's going to drop directly down.
Gotcha.
If it isn't, it's going to not fall into that, and it's going to be rejected to be reused again.
Oh,
so the product's reused.
Sorry, I was having an issue
hard.
Visualizing that.
So it's very hard to visualize automation and equipment if you haven't seen it.
Yeah. Oh, well,
it's a little intimidating.
Yeah, I did some of the videos you sent beforehand, and I do encourage people to check them out because it does help you understand how it works. And now you're also working in edibles, right?
Yes. So our equipment can also work with edibles. So primarily we do a lot of gummies. We do a lot of chocolate.
Was that a more natural fit?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was a more natural fit because that's what we've done in the past. We that's what we do right now. There's a lot of candy companies out there. There's a lot of popcorn companies out there.
Yeah.
And our equipment is in those facilities.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you what kind of capacity do you get with these weighers? Like, what's the average size operation? How many do you need in terms of what you're looking to do when it comes to scale?
So if you mean as far as operators and
Operators are like how much product you've got going through it.
yeah, you've got a continuous flow of product. We can fill 20 a minute, we can fill 40 a minute. It depends on what you're filling into. And what we like and what our cannabis customers like is that we are a semi-automatic system and modular.
Okay.
So that means we'll grow with you. You don't have to buy a fully automated system.
Okay.
You can start off semi-automatic. You always have a scale. The multi-head weigher is what you need. That's going to give you the precise accuracy, the fill speeds that you need. But you can stop there. And then you can have just 2 operators underneath that scale filling into a jar or a bottle or a tin, whatever it may be, and they're just going to fill at operator speed. If then you add on what we would call a rotary pouch machine under it, so when you have those nice pre-made bags already filled, we have a machine that will automatically fill that, add nitrogen flush, print on it, put your label on it. That's a faster speed, 40 a minute, 50 a minute, whatever it may be.
Are there still a lot of customers, cannabis clients out there that are using the semi-automatic approach?
A lot of them start off that way and quickly realize they need to then do, they need to keep up with demand. And if their product is good and their brand is a good brand, they're fully automated.
Okay.
So if you're a smaller guy, right, and you're just starting out, you want to start small, you start with the smaller semi-operated. But yeah, the big guys are fully automatic. And we have case packers and palletizers. We have equipment that takes it all the way through to the consumer.
Okay. So I'd like to talk a little bit more about the history of the company. You said you started with Olson. Is it still Olson?
No. So now we are under what we call the Duravant. So Duravant, Duravant company.
Okay.
And Invinia is a subsidiary of Duravant. Invinia has the Olson brand, RPAC brand, and Hammer Fishbine brand, and adding more brands daily.
And it's just, it's spread. It's in every corner of the food and anything packaging anywhere in the world that kind of touches.
Yeah, it does. And our division, the Invinia division, is primary packaging equipment and secondary and end-of-line equipment.
Okay.
So we have the full gamut of filling it, weighing it, packaging it, shipping it out the door.
So one thing that I've seen is that sometimes when you're part of a larger operation, sometimes that cannabis play maybe isn't as warm and fuzzy in the big structure. Like, did you ever run into that, or has it been, pretty well accepted?
We've run into that.
Yeah.
So I started we were, full force in the cannabis industry from 2015, 2020 till 2020.
Okay.
And then our companies decided that it wasn't a good idea to be in the cannabis industry because it wasn't federally legal. So we were out of the space for a couple of years, unfortunately. And over the past 6 months, we've come back into it and very happy to be back in the industry. So we're remarketing and getting our name back out there again as one of the leaders in packaging equipment.
Yeah, one of the OGs.
Yeah, one of the originals.
So was Olson acquired in 2020, or what happened in 2020 there was a change?
Yeah, and it wasn't 2020 that we were acquired, but yes, Olson Packaging was acquired maybe in 2018.
Okay.
And by Duravant, and we all then were, and so was our Pack and Hammer Fishbine brands. We were all acquired,
Yeah.
and they built a brand new facility in Wooddale, Illinois, under the Invinia name. And so now we are part of the Duravant brand of
Okay.
brands.
Yeah. What's the facility like in Wooddale?
Beautiful.
Yeah.
You've got to come in and see it.
No, I'd love to see it. Like, I come from like a manufacturing family, so I like to joke that I'm the black sheep because I'm the one that does it with words and not actually in the industry.
Yeah.
They're just, everyone's talking around the card table, and I'm just like, I definitely almost understand everything you're talking about.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. So it's only a few years old. It's a huge manufacturing facility. We've got all our welders there. We do all of our building of our equipment there. Engineers. We have project managers. We're a really big company.
So, like in 2020, when you guys took a step back, and your equipment was still available, like via distributors, right into the industry.
Correct.
But was it just that, it was strictly, hey, we're not doing anything in cannabis? And then, so what changed over the 4 years where like 6 months ago, they're just like, no, you know what? It's time to get back in.
So I don't know what changed. All I know is I got a phone call and said, you're back in, go do it. So we're just happy to be back in the game.
Yeah.
But yeah, we could sell through distributors and work that way into the industry, but it was very limited. And we just went back, continued. And the cannabis space is just a small piece of what we do.
Right.
So, we continued working in the food industry. And
yeah. So what were you doing for 4 years? Just selling into food, being like, man,
yep.
I want to go deal with this trichome problem again.
Yes, exactly. Like, well, I think they're having problems at this company. I followed everyone. I stayed in touch by following everyone on, LinkedIn and in the news, and see how great and big these small companies I dealt with years ago have been bought out, and they're doing so well.
Yeah.
A lot of companies are not doing so well. A lot of companies are out of business, but many of them have moved along, and I'm happy to see them grow.
Does anyone stand out in your mind, like any particular client that you were kind of in there early and you've just watched their evolution over the years, and you find particular pride knowing that you were kind of helped just a little bit with that?
In the beginning, there's quite a few.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't.
Okay.
A lot of them because they're very private.
Oh yeah.
And so, for instance, if I want to get a customer on site that I'm trying to show our equipment to, they very rarely let us in the facility to show other cannabis people. They're very, very private.
Yeah. Has that changed over the years? Because I know that this industry likes to embrace itself as a very collaborative industry. Like, hey, let's learn from each other, until like it gets to that like actual secret sauce. Then it's like,
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Nancy will allow any customers to come in. We'll show our facility. We'll show your equipment. We love showing off our facility. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let me have someone come. We've decided not to allow anyone to come in and see what we're doing. To me, they're all doing the same thing.
Yeah.
If you're in that space and you have the funding to build this giant facility, I think you're all in the same area. You're all probably getting similar equipment and similar lighting and soil, and I don't know what the secret is, but that's them, and that's understood. Yeah, understood. You got to respect it.
Talking about like capital, have you seen an uptick in capital spending, or is everything still kind of on hold right now?
No, I have seen an uptick. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Do you attribute that to anything? Because it seemed like over the last, I don't know, I want to say like 8 months or so, maybe a year, like people were kind of like not hitting pause, but they were just kind of like the capital wasn't as available as it had been the last 2 or 3 years ago.
I'm guessing.
Yeah. That's good. That's good for podcasts. Speculation.
So yeah, I'm guessing it's just the world that we're in right now, and the unsteady economy.
Yeah. The world we're in right now needs a lot of cannabis.
Yeah, exactly. Get back out there, buy your equipment.
That's right. So, are you selling cannabis equipment globally, or is it primarily in North America?
Primarily in North America, but we can also reach out to to other countries, and I'm in talks with companies now. And there's a lot of countries that are into growing cannabis and have these huge facilities and are looking for equipment.
What territories are you hot on right now, both in North America and in the greater?
So right now, more in the Northeast, because we've really saturated the West Coast a lot. There's still companies in the West Coast that are growing, and that I've been in touch with in the past. But there is a lot more on the Northeast, and I've got a lot of good things coming in: Maryland, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York. And I'm from Massachusetts, so it's growing. And it has grown over the past couple of years while I've been kind of out of the industry. But happy to see that it has. I think everyone's looking forward to.
Greener pastures.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you, saying that you've been doing some business in New York, what have you heard from that state in particular, just because it's had a lot of stops and starts? They've had some issues with the unregulated markets. What have you seen there?
Right. And that's it. So originally we've had everyone was really excited, in the New York market to be able to work in this industry and get things going. It has slowed down, but this back and forth. Not sure if they're going to, what regulations are happening, what's going to pass, what's not going to pass. So,
do you do you find yourself replacing competitive equipment? Are you going more into a new build? At what point of the development process, the production process, are your clients typically?
Good question. Primarily what I've seen in the very early stages of this was the industry looked at equipment last. Okay, so they built, when they were building big facilities, right? They would put all their money into this giant facility to make sure they had the best lighting and the best plants. And at the very end, they would consider, we really need automation. Spending all this money on labor cost is not working anymore. And I forget where I'm going with that.
No, well,
edit me out right now.
No.
Yes.
How it was the last thing that they were.
Yes, and now now it's one of the first things they also look at, because they know that automation is a really big part of keeping up with demand, getting their product out there, getting their brand out there. It's a big industry. So it is one of the first things they look at, and that they do include in their
plans.
Like,
are you? Do you find yourself? Are you upgrading legacy Invinia equipment? Are you replacing competitors? Any of that?
So we do go into a lot of new facilities. And we replace some equipment from our competitors. So they're picky now. The industry realizes what's a good piece of equipment and what they don't like about a piece of equipment. And with Invinia, we'll make those changes as needed and discuss with the customer if there's anything that they need that needs a change.
Like, what typically needs a change? What's not working?
In the beginning, it was like the accuracies, like I discussed, and we've done many things to make sure the accuracy is really tight. Keeping the trichome safe from falling off. So vibration is very important. Or not so important. We don't want that shake or anything to fall or keef or. So we've learned a lot about the product. So we have made those changes to our equipment to keep up with that. So and people want to, companies want to save money. And that's really what it comes down to is automation. You may have to make some changes to your current packaging to fit in the automation space. But it comes down to your labor costs are saving. Your packaging you're saving on your packaging designs. Your labels look good. Their printing is nice and looks good. It's a lot. There's a lot that you have to be concerned with.
Having been out of the industry for like the better part of 4 years, do you find yourselves playing catch up now? Or, were you kind of developing in the background, or, is the industry a whole new industry now that you're back in it?
No, it's very similar. It's very similar. I haven't seen many new changes. Maybe there's new equipment out there that we don't provide.
Okay.
But and I've seen that, some really nice pieces of equipment. But when you're looking to weigh your product and fill your product, it's primarily the same. So
okay.
Yeah, that hasn't changed much.
Have you had any issues with safety with your equipment or maintenance?
Safety, no.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been in making equipment for over 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
So with the safety is no issues there. Maintenance with our equipment is easy maintenance. Our equipment is toolless removable parts. You take them off, you wash them, you put them back on.
Yeah.
You can spray them out with air, not water. You don't want to get water and all that stuff. But yeah, it's easy cleaning. Toolless removable parts. I mean, it's pretty easy to take care of. Once you're trained.
That's what I was going to say. Once you're trained, because like going from like the food industry with like professional maintenance departments and then kind of going into cannabis where you're like, let me walk you through it.
Yeah.
I mean, was that kind of a learning curve too, where it's just like, oh man, we need to like really make sure they know how to take care of this equipment?
Yes. They're not familiar with this equipment at first. So we have our techs go out on site and do training days and teach them how to use the equipment. It's all new. It's new. I mean, this is, it's not hard to learn, but yeah, it's new pieces of giant equipment that they're looking at, and they've never done that. They're the scales, they consider a scale, a small little weigh scale like this, that they're little digital, they're hand, weighing.
Yeah.
They're 1 grams, they're 3 grams, or 5 grams, whatever it may be. And now they have this big piece of equipment. We train them on that. We teach them how to get this equipment cleaned out as fast as possible and change over. And so we do that.
Do you do a lot of customer support? Like, do you find customers coming back to you regularly looking for upgrades or help, when it comes to maintenance or troubleshooting?
So we have our techs are always on call. So we have a support center based out of our Chicago, our Wooddale, Illinois facility. They can call in. Our techs, primarily the equipment questions are answered by phone. Mm-hmm. And if they need someone on site to fix something, we have techs that fly all over the country to go out and fix
You got
your
any
issues.
like troublemakers that come to mind where you're just like, man, they're calling every week? No.
Yeah. I'm not going to mention any names.
No, I understand. When it comes to big equipment like this, the one thing people always want to know is ROI. So, what kind of ROI are people looking at when they're looking at bringing Invinia's equipment in-house?
The ROI is pretty quick.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're using typically it's maybe say 10 operators to hand pack, which takes time, product loss. And you go down to, and you switch over to equipment, you need 2 operators to run this machine.
Yeah.
And once that labor savings is done and you're only paying for your 2 operators, your other operators can go wherever they need. You put them in the facility in a different position. And typically the ROI for a standard piece of equipment is within 7 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's pretty quick.
Yeah. That's something that still blows my mind, just the ROI in this industry and other industries similar, where you're going from something that's typically still commonly labor intensive.
Yeah.
It's just like, if done right, that ROI can be realized pretty
really quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
But do you ever see operators running into, we've seen issues where they see that number as to like what total uptime can be, but that's just not the scale they're at. They like, and it has to be somewhere in the middle. Just like, hey, you're not going to hit the like 40 to 50 an hour or whatever. Like, and you don't need to. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You don't need to. You can base it off what you need to do.
Yeah.
Some of our customers only run the equipment for 2 days a week,
Okay.
right? So they're going to fill everything they need to fill in 2 days. And those operators can go work somewhere else and do what else they need to do. But those packages are already done and ready to roll.
Mm-hmm.
And then the bigger companies are running the equipment, 2 8-hour shifts.
Yeah.
So it depends.
Okay. As you've been out in the industry, have you seen any clients in particular where their facility just kind of blows you away?
They're beautiful facilities.
Yeah.
From when I started,
Mm-hmm.
the facilities I used to go into were pretty scary.
Yeah.
Literally scary.
Yeah.
And now the facilities are beautiful. They take pride in these beautiful buildings and their plants and their soil and their end game. I mean, it's such a competitive market. Their facilities are beautiful. And that's why automation comes into play. They want to continue that, right? From the soil or the air and the plant all the way out the door. And
it is wild to me, like how at the beginning, and still hear horror stories from the industry today, just in terms of restrictions as to what kind of buildings people can use for cannabis operations.
Yeah.
And they're not even suited for like industrial equipment.
no, for the first few years, we were building equipment to fit into tiny rooms,
Yeah.
8-foot ceilings, 8 by 8.
Yes.
So we started that what we call a low-level system. We build systems to fit your facility.
Yeah. Like,
and
you never would
because
have
of them,
imagined that. Like, hey, it won't get through the door.
right, right. So so that was one of the changes we made. We have a scale that's low level. It's on the floor basically.
Okay.
And it just then feeds up in a short little bucket elevator and feeds into whatever you're feeding into. But yeah, we will. That was another custom design we made specifically for this industry because we were going into such small rooms.
Do you find yourselves, is NVIDIA customizing machines for each individual operator, or is a lot of it still just kind of off the shelf? Or not off the shelf, but you know what I mean.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's primarily the same equipment.
Yeah, standard.
It's standard equipment. Yeah. So there's two different styles. We have a vertical system and a horizontal system depending on the room you're going into. But then again, that's what we do. We design it. We have our engineers and we will design it to fit your facility. So
Okay.
if you have a small space and you can't have a full line, you can still semi-automatic that, and you can still get 20 a minute, 30 a minute, whatever it may be for filling speed. So
Yeah.
if you don't have the space, you don't have to say no to the equipment.
Okay. Have you run into, you guys were big players in the industry for 5 years, went dormant a little bit for 4 years. Like, is there any apprehension in terms of like, or do you need to find yourself like reassuring people like, hey, we're here to stay now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I knew a lot of people in the industry, and our name was very popular in the industry over the years. And now I have to get back in the game and reintroduce myself. We're back in the industry. We're better than ever.
Mm-hmm.
Let's work together again.
Okay.
So yeah, for sure.
Well, were you still supporting equipment throughout the time, just not
Yes.
selling new? Yeah.
Yeah. So we still supported our parts, and our tech still went out to the facilities that had our equipment. So we didn't shut off from that. It was just that I couldn't sell into the industry.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
From the food side of the business, what are some of the unique applications that you've seen? I mean, I understand that like when it comes to cannabis, it's like you have flour, you have gummies, you
Yeah.
have candy. And have you seen any kind of interesting applications where you're just like, never thought of that?
Maybe never thought of it, but there are a lot of interesting applications out there. We do a lot of beef jerky packaging.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
I just got heartburn. Just with you
Yeah,
saying
exactly.
that. No.
So there's so much. There's turkey jerky, and there's beef jerky that's not really beef.
Yeah. Okay. What does that mean? Oh, like the plant-based stuff?
So yeah,
yeah.
and mushroom jerky, and
Oh, yeah.
so jerky over the past couple of years, boomed.
Yeah.
People wanted to make their own.
Everyone needs their protein.
Everyone, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a fun industry. We do a lot with that. We do a lot of gummy products, a lot of gummy packaging.
Man, what does a beef jerky plant smell like?
Not good. I've had some samples. I've had samples sent to me, and no names, but I don't know how it doesn't smell good.
No, we've had a sister brand of ours is food manufacturing, and we do get some samples every once in a while. You put it out on the table, and most times everyone's just like, yeah,
yes.
all right, this is great. And then every once in a while you get that one, you're just like, oh, I don't think they're going to make it.
Yeah, but they do. You see them out there. They're, so yeah. And for instance, in the jerky industry, when you're first starting out and you're in your home, starting your business, you're packaging into a large bag, and your jerky is 5 inches long.
Mm-hmm.
When you're then going into automation and you want to automate that because you have a big facility and you have your consumers and you got this big order to ship to Target or BJ's or whatever it may be, you have to a lot of times change your product to fit into the equipment industry. You have to change your product, or you have to change your container.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, the jerky, 5-inch pieces of jerky, you're not really going to see anymore because they're hand packing that.
Yeah.
To get jerky into a pouch, you need to cut to size, which we all learned along the way with them. Okay, so we would take your samples and look at it and say, these scales and equipment really can't fit a long piece of jerky.
Yeah.
If you want to use equipment, you may have to change your product look a little bit or your design a little bit. And the same with cannabis flower. You might really want a giant piece of cannabis.
Oh yeah, giant flower.
Yeah, a giant flower, and your container's this wide.
Yeah.
That's not going to. Your operator may be to take it and put it in that manually.
Yeah.
But to go into automation, a lot of times you have to make that container wider so that product does fit.
Yeah.
Just a couple of things to think of when you're.
So what do they do in that situation? It's simple when it's like beef jerky. It's just you get a machine that cuts it to size, right?
Yeah.
But cannabis is a bit more of delicate.
Very delicate.
So what are things that you can do to sort of make sure you get that, not uniformity, but, a more consistent size so that way it's easier to package?
Our customers will trim their product to fit into the container, and they will then order larger pieces, So for instance, going into a pill bottle is very difficult, right? And we can do that, but your buds have to be those tiny little buds.
Yeah.
So when you're trying to put in these huge pieces, they're not going to fit.
Are they hand trimming that then?
Hand trimming.
Yeah. Okay.
For the most
and it's
part.
just like, the scale you're trying to realize with this equipment, it's like all of a sudden like slowed way down because you got to hand trim everything.
So they'll hand trim it before it enters our product.
Yeah.
And enters our equipment. But yeah, it does.
Okay.
But they're willing to do that if it's going to fit into their container, and if they want to go fully automated, they're willing to then change their packaging design to make it work.
Yeah. Well, so a lot of people in not just this industry, but any industry, they want to see the equipment before they bring it in-house, get more comfortable. Like, do you guys do tours of your facility? Are you going to be at any trade shows? Like, where can people kind of see it in person?
So for cannabis equipment, they can come to our facility, Wooddale, Illinois. We invite them to come in and see the machinery that we would use for the product. We use popcorn as the test product because it's nice and light and fluffy, and you can see how well the equipment works with that and how accurate it is.
Yeah.
Or we do have customers, very few, that will allow an on-site visit to see the equipment. They change their minds often, But if they do, I do also have customers that will allow a phone call and tell you about the equipment and what they like about it.
Yeah. We assure you it's great.
We assure you, but you can't come see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we invite customers to our facility. We want you to come in and see this building and what we do and how we make this equipment specific for you.
Do you have any industry events on the calendar in the near future?
Hopefully we're going to be at MJ BizCon
Okay.
in some capacity.
Yeah.
Not sure if we're having a booth yet. It's still a little while out.
Okay.
And we will be at in Chicago
The PEC Expo.
at PEC Expo,
Okay.
which that will be under the Duravant umbrella. That's our parent company is Duravant, and we are Invinia when we're just a little side shoot of Duravant.
Do you feel like sometimes working in the cannabis industry under like a big parent, do you guys sometimes feel like the redheaded stepchild?
No, actually, we all seem to. Everyone embraces it.
Oh, okay.
So no, I don't. Maybe at first it was a little bit.
Yeah.
We were a little bit
Yeah.
out there, but no, we are. We seem to get really good feedback, and I think most companies, even our parent company, realizes this is a product that's here to stay. It's a good product.
Yeah.
It's medicinal. There's so many misconceptions about it, and I think now they're realizing, hey, wait a minute, this is not that scary. It's not that bad.
No, we got to get rid of that lingering dare and reefer madness stigma.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing I always like to ask, but do you have a personal connection to it at all?
No, only that I like working with the customers,
Okay.
so can't say I haven't tried it.
Yeah, that's fair.
So,
Well, no, it's doing big business in Illinois right now.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like everywhere there right now.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Yes. So I've reached out to everyone. Anyone in Illinois, call me back.
No, that sounds great. Well, Nancy, thank you very much for taking the time today. I really appreciate you taking the trip up and coming in studio. It's just an entirely different experience. But before we get out of here, is there anything else you want to make sure the Cannabis Equipment News audience either knows about yourself or Invinia?
I appreciate that. Yes. You can contact me with any questions you have on equipment. I'd be happy to, like I said, bring you to a facility, come into our facility, see our equipment, answer any questions. We do budgetary proposals. We're not pushy. We want you to have good equipment and be happy with, what we provide. So we take you along that ride until you're happy and satisfied and do eventually buy the equipment. That's the goal. So reach out to me anytime.
Right. You want that sort of lifelong partner, not that single sale.
Exactly. We're there for life. We've been around for a long time.
Well, I mean, hey, that's a scary thing for some people. Like a lot of people have been burned by, like sort of upstart equipment manufacturers that kind of like just went away.
Yeah. They started out, they looked like they were going to be great in the industry. We've been around for a long time, all of our brands, and we're here to stay. So there's no worry on our part as far as the end game goes. We're there to service our customers after market support.
Good. I think there's a little bit of like added confidence that you're diversified in other markets as well.
Definitely.
It's not like cannabis or bust.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yep. We've been around and like I said, you'll see that when you come to our facility. It's amazing. It's beautiful.
Well, I look forward to it. I hope to do it soon.
For sure.
All right. Well, thanks again, Nancy.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
All right. Well, before we get out of here, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You could also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach me at david@cannabisequipmentnews.com with email the podcast in the subject line. You can also subscribe to our daily newsletter. Make sure you get it delivered to your inbox first. For Nancy Weber, Cannabis Sales Manager, Cannabis Sales at Invinia. I'm David Manti. This is the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast, and we will see you next week.
Welcome to the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast.